The path to mastery leads through the heart of adversity. Challenge is the raw material from which courage and strength are forged. Warriors are not defined by events. Warriors define them. Warriors conquer themselves before all else. Warriors are relentless in their service to others. Join us as we open our hearts and hone our minds to a razor's edge. It doesn't matter how slow you go, only that you do not stop. Your time is now. And now your host, Jason McKenzie.
Yo, so I had this crazy unicycle ride on the weekend, and I really think I learned a lot about myself. And I need to preface this by saying that I'm doing this podcast because I'm super bitchy right now, first of all, like super bitchy. Mostly because my eye is driving me crazy. I've got this corneal erosion thing going on, and it's not really as bad as it sounds. Like I don't think my cornea is, I'm not really sure why they call it that, but it's basically like this scratch on my cornea, and it won't fucking heal. And there's nothing, like, it doesn't bother me most of the time, but when it does bother me, it is like having a piece of metal kind of stuck in your eye that you can't get out. And it's like, I'm super sensitive to light and got to pour eye drops in it. And there's not really anything they can do about it. Like they can do the, like, sort of the acute part, like they could freeze it or put a certain type of contact in or whatever till it kind of heals up again. But it just keeps happening over and over again. And it'll go like a long time without happening, and then it'll happen. And so I think I might need to get referred to a specialist, but all of the, everything I've read online about it says there's really fucking nothing you can do. And I've been to the optometrist, the eye doctor. I know there's a bunch of different kinds of eye doctors, but a bunch of times, and they kind of say the same thing, but I don't know, at this point, maybe going to a specialist will help. But my point in saying all that was not to elicit sympathy, but if you want to give me some, fuck, I'll take it. It was more to say, like, I'm doing this podcast because this eye thing makes me super bitchy. And because it's like, it's always there, and it's like all I can focus on, and I just get so short. So I'm sitting in here with my basement. I don't want to be around anyone. I don't want to be around anyone. And I thought, fuck it, I'll do a podcast episode because at least that'll be something constructive. It'll allow me to get my thoughts out of my head and hopefully add some value, which always makes me feel better. So back from my digression into the world of self-pity. And ladies, if there's any ladies listening to this, this isn't like man flu. Okay, this is like actually fucking hurts. Although I totally understand man flu. I've had the man flu many times, and I'm sure I will have it again in the future. And I have been known to, when I get a cold, to writhe around in agony looking for deep sympathy, which I typically don't get. But now my digression is over. So I'm doing this race. It's not a race. It's an event in a couple weeks. I keep saying that. I keep wanting to call it a race because I think I'm racing myself. But anyways, it's an MS bike ride. And over 2 days, on Saturday, you ride 80 kilometers, 50 miles. And then on Sunday, you ride 80 kilometers or 50 miles. So it'll be 160 kilometers or 100 miles over a couple days. And I'm doing it on my unicycle, which is, unusual probably to say the least. And it's going to be the furthest I've ever ridden. So over the course of that 2 days. I'm on a creaky chair right now, so I'm going to try to be super still. But anyways, so on Saturday, I went for a long unicycle ride, and this was my last training ride before, like my last long training ride before the event. And I didn't know exactly how far I was going to go, but I knew I was going to go further than I had ever gone before. So the furthest I'd gone before was about 72 kilometers. I can't really convert that. That's like 44 miles, something like that. And it was very painful. And I learned about I needed to take some electrolytes while I was riding because my quads completely locked up near the end. And I needed to eat something because I got super hungry and I started like throwing up in the bushes. So I was kind of dreading the ride, actually. That was about 3 weeks ago. I've ridden a lot since then. But, I bought some electrolyte stuff for my water and I stopped halfway and, grabbed a quick bite. It was McDonald's and it was so fucking good. Yum, yum. Which is not what I normally eat. Just so we're clear, it's not what I normally eat. But anyways, before I went, I had a ton of anxiety, man. And I mean, I'm talking anxiety, like not like panic attack anxiety, but I was feeling some pretty serious anxiety. And the reason is because I had so much wrapped up in what this ride meant. Okay. So I didn't know how far I was going to go, but I knew I was going to go further. I knew that like this, I really wanted this ride to go well, because if it didn't go well, then what was that going to mean for the weekend of the event? Was I even going to be able to finish it? Like, I really don't know if I'm even going to be able to finish this thing over 2 days, because it's going to hurt like hell. And if the ride went shitty, and then, oh my God, what if I can't finish the race and then, or the event? You can see what I'm doing here in my own head, the event. And, what would that mean for all those people that donated? People have donated over $1,000 to support me in doing this. Oh my God, I got to finish. And last time it was really hard. And oh my God, how do I even think I'm going to go further than that? What if I'm not ready? Blah, blah, blah. What if it gets too painful and I quit? What does that say about me, not just as for this event, but as a fucking human being? Is if I can't take it and I actually quit. Like, these were all of the thoughts that were going on in my head before I went on this ride. I think I'm going to stand up actually, because this stool is driving me crazy. One thing I want for Christmas, or sometime before Christmas, is a very silent stool for recording podcasts and just sitting in comfortable bliss. But anyways, once again, I digress. So as I start going out on the ride, I'm noticing that, I'm riding along and I'm feeling okay, but I'm very hypersensitive to every twinge, or everything that feels different or maybe suboptimal, let's say. And I'm kind of focusing on that. And I did that for probably the first 20 kilometers. And, just had this voice going on in my head. It was like, are you going to be able to do this? Are you going to be able to do this? You better be able to do this. And, it wasn't quite that insanely neurotic, but it was there and it was pretty loud. Now, obviously I didn't ignore it, but I did not let the narrative in my head dictate my actions. I obviously went for the unicycle ride anyways, and I knew I was going to go far. So I just didn't know what it was going to look like. But what I noticed was, as time passed and I rode further and further, that the voices started to quiet down in my head. And it was really an interesting experience for me, because it wasn't instant. They just slowly started to quiet, and I started to get more comfortable, and I started to get into the groove, and I started to feel more like I was sort of one with the unicycle. As weird as that sounds. Sometimes what I mean by that is, instead of feeling like I'm sitting on top of it, it feels like an extension of my body, which is a really cool feeling to have. So that's kind of when you're in a flow state, or whatever you want to call it. But the voices in my head were starting to quiet down. And then what ended up happening? So actually, let me back up a little bit. And normally I would listen to a podcast or something when I ride, but I was like, you know what? I need to fully experience this narrative in my head. Because I feel like I'm going to learn something about myself if I do. And so as the voices quieted down and I was trugging along, I got to about probably the 60 kilometer mark, maybe. And they were basically turned off. The voices, I don't want to say voices, it's not like other human beings talk to me. It's the narrative that we all have going on in our head. But basically, I don't know that it was empty, but it was very peaceful and quiet. And I felt like I had this almost like a cocoon of peace around me, in a way, but that still I could still obviously hear all my surroundings, but it was amazing. And so when that kind of happened, I realized that, man, I think I could basically go forever right now. I felt like a cyborg. I kept telling myself, that I was a unicycling cyborg as I plowed along. And they never came back. Those voices really did not come back. And I just, I stopped it at 91 kilometers because I could have gone a little bit further, but I'd been riding for a long time, and it was it was 12:30. I left at about 7, and it was about 12:30, and I was like, ugh, I don't feel like doing another 18 kilometer loop. And my legs were getting sore, not sore to the point of quitting. So my point is, I could have made it to 100 kilometers, but I was cool with what I did. It felt good. And then what was interesting afterwards was I really had to make an effort to celebrate what I had done. Because at first I was like, I rode my fucking unicycle 91 kilometers. That is crazy when you think about it. But then right away it was like, is there going to be enough for the day of the event? Blah, blah, blah. And I said to Tanya, I really want to celebrate this and just recognize that, come on, this is an awesome accomplishment. Seriously, I rode a unicycle 91 kilometers and I did it well, and I was strong. And that is something that I should be proud of and I should celebrate. And so I did. And it was really a great experience. And, it was nice. It was just a nice thing where I didn't jump up and down, but I just acknowledged a few times over the course of the night that I'm really happy that I pulled that off. And, proud of myself, right? And maybe it'll be a springboard for something else. I don't know, I have this voice in my, I don't want to keep saying I have voices in my head, but I have this idea that maybe one day I'll ride my unicycle across Canada. Who knows if I'll ever do that, but it's something that I think about sometimes. It might be an amazing fundraising thing for something that I feel I care about a lot. But what I learned, though, is that those kind of stories, that narrative I had going on in my head, when I allowed myself to sit with it over like a period of hours, I do always realize that that narrative does play itself out in other areas of my life, right? Not just unicycling, and it happens to all of us. But what I I already knew this, but what I just, I guess, implemented again was that I will not let these narratives, these stories, these feelings dictate my fucking actions. I've got to plow through it anyways and learn from the experience and soldier through it, right? And I think what happens is in this particular case, I have very high expectations of myself. The feat that I am about to attempt in a few weeks is one that is, something that's going to be hard, very hard, but super rewarding, right? So instead of focusing on the fact that I have all this anxiety, what I really am learning and always trying to recognize is that I care deeply about performing at a high level. I care deeply about my health and wellness. I care deeply about being an example to other people. And I care deeply just about pushing myself hard to see what I am capable of, both emotionally, mentally, and physically. And so when I focus on that, that's a really much more interesting way to look at it. Like it was, Tanya had a really amazing point actually, when we were talking about this a little while ago, where I was kind of training and I said, I got to ride because I don't want to fuck it up come the day of the event. And she goes, one of those things that she tends to do. She goes, what if you decided to look at it like I'm training really hard, so come the day of the event, it's really fun. I'm training to make this, every training ride I go on will make the day of the event more and more fun. And I was like, Jesus, that's a great way to look at it. Thank you for that. And so that's really what I started doing. That's what I have been doing. And man, does it ever make training for it more enjoyable. So I guess I'll stop rambling now, but I think the moral of the story is that that narrative, the feelings, you got to feel them. You got to feel them, but you got to fucking work through them. When I say don't ignore them, you can still observe them, but do not let them dictate the actions that you choose to take, because make choices based on your values. Make choices based on, like, one of my values is health and wellness, right? One of my values is integrity. So health and wellness, I'm going to go do this ride. Integrity is, I fucking committed that I'm going to complete this event. I'm going to complete this event. Oh my God, I'm pathetic. I'm going to complete this event, and I'm going to honor the people that have sponsored me, with their hard-earned money, right? So when I start thinking about the actions I need to take to move myself closer to my values, the choice is obvious. I was only ever going to make one choice. The voices, the narrative, the stories, the feelings were never going to prevent me from taking action. And that's really the most important lesson, is that can be challenging, man. It can be challenging to observe, recognize, and say, go fuck yourself. I'm doing it anyways. So amazing what sitting, on a unicycle with myself in silence for 5.5 hours at a time taught me. And I just wanted to share those lessons with you, because I feel like I will carry those lessons with me for a while. And I think I'm going to go through probably a very similar cycle of some sort on the day of the event, or the 2 days of the event, probably even more so on the second day when I'm really sore and have to do it all over again. And I will share those learnings with you too, because I'm excited to find them out. All right. So I hope that was helpful to you, and have a fucking amazing day. Thanks for listening to the Emotionally Excellent Man Show. Now, go own your shit like the powerful, handsome boss man that you are.